You heard? It's like we've forgotten who we are, Tom. Explorers, pioneers, not caretakers.
When I was a kid, it felt like they made something new every day. Some gadget or idea. Like every day was Christmas. But 6 billion people. Just try to imagine that. And every last one of them trying to have it all. This world isn't so bad. You're the one who doesn't belong. Born 40 years too late or 40 years too early.
Well, we used to look up in the sky and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt.
You've landed on The Substance. I'm your host, Philip Marinello, here with my other hosts, Trevor Aiken.
Hey.
And Vincent Edwards.
How's it going?
This week, we'll be doing another entry in our Substantive Cinema shows.
Substantive Cinema!
And we're going to be talking about Chris Nolan's Interstellar 2014 film.
I heard some people having some pretty rough experiences with really loud audio on that one.
Oh, man.
No, it's
I
loud
can
as
only
heck.
imagine.
Ours
Like
was
a
all right.
subwoofer in your seat.
Yeah.
It was like a XD experience, like oof, or like a 4D. That'd be rough. So yeah, no, it's 2 hours 49 minutes. Pretty long, pretty loud, pretty interesting. So we do want to say at the top of the show though, this is going to be a spoiler show. The movie's 6 years old, so
Does that go for all substantive cinema?
I think so.
Yeah.
If it's important to you to have seen the film before we listen to it, we're going to be spoiling it. So just be forewarned if you're going to continue.
Be mindful.
Yeah. It's not like super plot twisty of a movie.
True.
All right. Anyway, so on Interstellar, this is a long movie. There's a lot to unpack here. Trevor, do you want to hit us with a bit of a plot synopsis?
Yeah, sure.
For those of us who, or for the listeners who maybe haven't seen it, or just a refresher because it's been a while.
I mean, so basically, you're living in a future where the planet is
Undetermined, like semi-near.
Yeah, it feels close, but it could be wherever. Anyway, the planet's dying in the fact that basically they can't grow any food anymore for like disease reasons. And basically it's about how there's NASA, which has had to go underground, and they find a new home. And so it's about the journey of a guy who used to be a pilot, but then had to become a farmer to help with the food shortage, and how he ends up going through this crazy journey across space, lots of danger, and
looking for a new home for
ends
him.
up trying to save the world, kind of.
Yeah, to find like a habitable planet that they can.
Yeah, because
mankind can continue on because Earth is no longer viable.
That's basically it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good nutshell. I like it. So yeah, Chris Nolan, like we can talk about him for a second because this is our first Chris Nolan
fan.
movie.
I like Chris Nolan stuff.
Okay.
Same.
Vince.
Yes. I think I like most of his movies, even the one on the last of your list. I enjoy that movie a lot.
You're tripping. Well,
I'm sorry, but
there
I
are
really
things
did.
about it
Like
that are great.
Dark Knight Rises.
I am weird with Chris Nolan because he is undeniably a world-class master director.
Sure.
But I mean, there's another podcast I like that was talking about it, and I felt very similar. Like, I'm always interested to see it. I always want to see it,
Right.
especially in the theater, especially in the biggest, biggest, best screen and projector I can, because his movies are events. But yeah, so I was looking through my texts when we were. So if you want to talk about this a little bit, you were wanting to do Inception really badly in our first go around.
We
of the
almost
Substance.
got it. We were a few.
There's no way
votes
Inception was going to beat Black
away.
Panther. No
That's
way.
true. But yeah, when I think about Chris Nolan films, I feel like what I've liked about them is he it's like he really wants to explore this concept, and he does so in ways. He's always kind of playing with this lens of time. Like, he loves to use film a unique property of telling a story in film is that you can really be bendy with time.
Yeah, time and memory, I think, are his two biggest things that he manipulates very interestingly.
And memory and time are very, very closely related. And so the way that he kind of pursues in these kind of big spectacle narratives, like very interesting core concepts, like I've always enjoyed that. And I tend to be kind of a nerdy, heady kind of guy myself, and I feel like his movies cater to that in ways where, you know, like with Inception, there's layers, there's dreams and dreams. People get lost sometimes in the narratives and like stuff like that.
The best.
Those are fun to me. Like I enjoy that. And what's fun is like that's never the point. It's always those things. You have to understand those things to get to the meat of what he's talking about.
Well, and
I love that.
That's kind of where I get tripped up
Yes.
sometimes, because he is such an idea guy. And he is so meticulous in his movie making. I do feel like sometimes the idea can kind of overshadow character and narrative and like emotional engagement. Inception is a movie I like watching.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if we put it on and I either turn my brain off or really engaged, I would like it. But then I walk away and I go, oh yeah, they did some cool stuff. I don't remember anybody's name, and I'm kind of not invested in any of the story of Inception at all.
Yeah, it's interesting the way you're kind of approaching that, because it does. I feel like if you're kind of a heady person, you might enjoy some of the ways he explores those concepts in a very intellectual way.
Well, because I like that. So, okay, here's another thing. You know me. I'm a huge movie guy. So let's talk a little bit about my list. Don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this. So September 1st.
Okay.
I got a group of guys back in Florida. We're in Kansas City here now. Nearly every week for like a couple of months, we were watching movies together, kind of remotely. Like we'd call or text and like 3, 2, 1 play, and we'd all like watch the same movie at the same time. And our text thread. So I was texting them before Tenet. Chris Nolan had made 10 movies. I had seen them all. 5 of the movies, half of his output, I'd only seen one time. Like, he's not an enormous rewatcher for me because it's a cool idea, but like, I like ideas.
That's
but
funny.
The ideas aren't why I watch movies.
Yeah, I feel I can see that. What's funny is like his is almost like some of the movies I've watched is like instant buy, because for me it is rewatch quality. Like I do want to like experience that.
Get into
again.
that idea.
No, I relate with that. With that one, Trevor, because like Inception, I think I've watched it at least 5 or 6 times. And it's one of those movies where and
are you a big rewatcher, Vince? Just for for the audience, because I'm a huge rewatcher.
I'm not.
I'm a huge rewatcher.
I like to rewatch a movie.
So, like, what's your favorite movie?
Inception, actually, is literally my favorite movie. It's like well, I will say it's the best movie of 2010, and it's the reason why I like it so much is oftentimes, and that's a draw for me is if you watch it again, you always seem to find something new.
Sure, no, and I do
love
like
that
layers. Sure,
the dude's brilliant.
Yeah, there's definitely. I'm not saying there's not rewatch value. I'm just not compelled.
No, I feel what you're saying.
I'm not.
It doesn't connect on the heart level to like.
And I'll even talk about that some with Interstellar. I'm warming up to it. So
I feel that.
Back to my list.
Here's this list of yours. I probably turn it upside down. It's probably the ones I like.
Prestige, I think, has some of his best character work because it's about those two guys and their conflict and their relationship, not just. I mean, I don't know if I want Prestige is older than Interstellar, like the science magic that they do.
Oh man,
because the Prestige is about those two men and their friendship, their partnership, and then their rivalry. Like that's interesting. That's worth rewatching to me.
That's interesting.
Not just check out this cool idea. This room turned upside down. Okay, like it is cool to watch, but like I'm not going back.
You're disrespecting me right now, bro.
No, but if you like
did you just reduce Inception to a room being turned upside down?
Right. Come
on now.
Please,
no,
don't do that.
I'm sorry, all our listeners, so that we just lost.
It's a good. It is a good film, but it's not. It's so weird too, because like I do feel very much both ways about it. So back to Interstellar, I'll go on record. I do like Chris Nolan a lot.
Yes.
Dark Knight Rises was like a big mess.
Okay.
So that's at the
And
bottom
right
of my
above
list.
Big Mess. in your
And
opinion.
Interstellar was number 9 at September 1st. I did a rough draft, and these are my favorites, not like best movie.
Yeah.
This is what do I like.
Yeah, it was felt like.
And Interstellar was only above the very terrible mess of Dark Knight Rises, which Chris Nolan kind of didn't even want to make. And I'm not saying it doesn't have
But
merit. There are
then
great scenes in the
The
Dark Knight Rises.
ministry of Vince and Trev came into your life on Interstellar.
So yeah, I had seen it one time in the theater, and I was like, I liked watching it. I don't like that movie.
Yeah.
And then you're like, we should do Interstellar. And I was like, okay, because I thought it would be good for the podcast. It would be, there are definitely substantive themes and things he's dealing with for sure. So it's like, okay, we got that. Plus, we could argue about, like, I'm going to be like, this movie's trash. And you'd be like, it's so scientifically good, though. And I was like, so, but,
It's
so
exactly
I
what a
watched
black
it with
hole
you
looks like.
guys, and I was like, okay, I still don't love it. And then I rewatched it again on the third time on my own, and I was like, third time, I'm kind of, I'm warming up.
But this is
I'm
what's
warming
interesting to me then about
'Cause
what
I've
you're
only
saying
watched
about
half
his
of these.
list
Yeah,
is that you
sure.
haven't rewatched them a lot, but
Sure.
it took you 3 rewatches to get to the place where
But
you
see,
really
I've
liked
only
it.
watched Dunkirk one time, and I really like Dunkirk.
Yeah.
And Dunkirk, I would rewatch, especially, I think it's less than 100 minutes also,
Yeah.
which is great.
I think your critique about like character development and like human, like deep human connection on an emotional level is accurate.
So that might even be a good segue. How do you want to interact substantively with?
I don't know. Like I think about the ideas, like different ideas that
Sure.
are present in the film. So for me, like obviously it's an apocalyptic kind of world, and I thought the way that they approached it made it feel very, very relatable and near.
And actually, I will say every single time I've watched it, all 3 times, the first half hour is my favorite. Like just the family living in this rough spot before the NASA time travel nonsense.
It's not
Like
so much
the first
nonsense.
half hour is great because he's a dad. They chase down the thing in the field, and they have the funny deal with the teacher where he sticks up for his daughter and kind of sticks it to the teachers and the parent-teacher deal. I really like the first half of this movie.
Yeah.
And it's not that, it's more grounded, and then when it gets spacey, I'm not down. Like, I love genre filmmaking. It's just some of the problems I have with it. It was directed by Christopher Nolan. We've talked about that already. And it was written by Jonathan Nolan, Christopher Nolan's brother, and then they kind of rewrote it and reworked it together.
Nice.
And Jonathan Nolan also wrote Memento and some of the other ones as well. So that they write a lot together,
That's
they
awesome.
create a lot together. But they're both really good writers. I just feel like there's a better story fix for how they get to NASA than, well, they already got to NASA in the future, and then future them helped them get to NASA to begin with. How did future them get to NASA? Did future them help them get to NASA to be like somehow?
I disagree with that.
Somehow they need to get to NASA to go up and do the mission,
But they
to get back to help them get to NASA in the first
But
place.
that's the thing. So this
I
is what
just
we've
think it's
always talked about.
hot
Like
garbage.
it's not hot garbage when you have a plot device to explain it. Now you can decide that you don't like that plot device.
But help me.
that
Okay,
does
I
not
don't.
mean the plot device isn't there.
Every time we talk about this, you say that, and I kind of just say okay because I don't want to hear about it that much.
Do you want to hear about it now?
Explain to me briefly. How does it actually explain it?
Okay, so if imagine, so we're recording this podcast, we have a table right here.
Mhm.
Okay, so if I was to draw a black line on this table,
Yeah.
like how hard would it be for you to move your finger from one point on the black line to the other point on the black line in any direction?
Well, it would just take me moving my finger.
Not hard at all, because the line is in a lower dimension than you as a being exist outside of that dimension. Okay. In the movie, they talk about humanity evolving past 4 dimensions.
I'm aware of that.
Okay, so time being one of those dimensions, if you're evolved past that dimension, then the way that mathematics works is that it is a thing that you can enter into and out of at any point.
I get that. I think I get that. I might not get that.
Yeah.
In my mind, I get that. But in order to evolve to that dimension and not die, they need to do the NASA thing and have it be successful.
Okay.
At some point in actual time, they need to have done that and have been successful doing that in order to be the evolved beings that then go out back and help themselves do the whole thing. Am I getting that wrong?
I mean,
I get what you're saying. I'm tracking.
Because they're smart enough to just come up with something else. And every time I've watched that movie, it's easy enough to just, okay, willing suspension of disbelief, whatever. Yeah. Like when I think about it, I go, I get the extra dimensional science fiction aspect of it, but then it's like, humanity would be dead if not for the extra dimensional thems in the future that help. Like, it just, again,
so
time travel, if you analyze it too much,
where
they would have had to have done that.
Just like there's a time
somebody else should have helped them get to NASA.
They should have evolved, and then they're saying, well, it's important for us to make sure that we always get to this point in time, so then we enter into that dimension in order to place.
But this is just the nature of talking about time travel. Anytime you talk about time travel,
and that's why it's never going to get better than Back to the Future.
You're going to start talking about linear causality, but that doesn't hold once you can travel along that line anywhere. So you're talking about, well, how did you get to point 100 when this needed to happen at point 50?
But with the stakes of Interstellar,
you're not on the line anymore.
They would be dead, and humanity would not exist for them to get to that point.
So take this. Everybody on Earth would have died. Maybe their seed mission would have been successful. The mission
wouldn't even have happened.
Those beings would have evolved, whatever, in the movie narration.
Sure.
And then they transcend dimensions and one of them decides, let's help them out so that they can actually save the people on Earth.
I would have much rather had that happen.
But that is a totally plausible thing within the elements that the movie already gives you.
Vince?
I think honestly either one of those can fit, because if I'm limiting how we, like in this time zone or whatever, we're saying that you have to have gotten to a point of evolution in order to then re-enter time.
Yeah, and if humanity's all dead, who's evolving to go back and help them?
Those who are outside of our dimensions to a linear dimension, and saying you have to do it in that timeline first. Right. And it's like, but if they're outside of that timeline, who's to say that?
How did they get to the point of being outside the timeline?
What if they're just in a different dimension,
is extinct?
and then they entered into our dimension to help us out?
So am I saying I'd rather have them have aliens than their future selves help them? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
So we should move on. This has always been a sticking point for me. Yeah. When I think about it, I just go, I feel like this is dumb. I feel like this is smart dumb, and it could have had a better. There could have been a better device to kick everything off. But let's get past that.
Because I think they chose it on purpose. I think what they were trying to do was to work within the science that they had of today to understand and kind of create some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't the point, because I think what's really interesting early on, they talk about the ghost. And I love that idea of the ghost and her ghost and this kind of conversation that Murph has with her dad, kind of back and forth. Yeah. He says you have to get to the facts, the how and the why. And what's funny is, like, there really isn't, like, even though she uses the term ghost and it's not a ghost, it doesn't really matter that it's not a ghost, because science can't explain what was going on at that point anyway.
Sure.
Well, and that's that whole... I feel like there's a couple different people attributed to very essentially the similar deal of, like, everything that people call magic is basically science.
Mm-hmm. Just not understood science.
Yeah.
Sure. But I think the movie...
I butchered that quote, by the way, anybody that knows it. Right. And also, listeners, write us in. I would love to hear your guys' thought on the time loop of the NASA thing and see whose side.
Especially if you're a quantum physicist, if you wanted to go ahead and just write in and help Philip out.
Dumb it down for us.
Yeah,
just
no, legit. Like, I would
explain like he's.
But if it's them helping them, I don't see it.
All right, you don't have to.
So you're talking about, like, the ghosts at the beginning. I feel like it was a much less effective, especially at the beginning. Like, love is the most powerful force or whatever, things like that. I thought it was pretty ineffective at the beginning in that part. But I feel like it landed emotionally a little bit more the third. It definitely landed more the third time.
How so?
And the more I think, so one of my complaints about Nolan, and we've talked about this before, when he started to get into, like, the Nolan movies, like the Inceptions and the Dunkirks in this, and even Prestige to a degree, but I like the Prestige a lot more because I feel like it's more character driven. They just, a lot of the part of the Nolan style does feel a bit sterile and kind of, again, like, look at this idea. And I know that he's British, and maybe some of that is just
cultural
part of the culture. Because I was kind of joking, and I saw in my research he does have a wife and children. I was like, does this guy even understand emotions and family? So no disrespect to the man, but I was like, man, like, I know that family and love was supposed to be a big part of Interstellar, and every time I saw it, there was one moment that connected with me emotionally every single time, but there was only one that worked every time for me. Yeah, like, his ideas are so strong. His production design is phenomenal. I don't know if you know this, Trevor. 0 green screen. Everything practical and projection. And obviously they use CGI and stuff, but everything was practical and real so that it feels lived in. It gives it that texture, that like realness.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are so many impressive things about the movie, but like,
man, even the ice planet, not green screen.
Yeah, no, it's all practical.
That's crazy.
That's dope.
Yeah, and evil Matt Damon, the fight on the mountain with evil Matt Damon, yeah. All that was practical.
That's really crazy.
So all that stuff is part of what makes a good movie, but I feel like he always...
That's not the point.
He always puts in like 9-part... It's so much incredible stuff other than like something like compelling hooks to get me to care about it, not just be impressed by it.
See, and that's why I feel like it's different, because like in philosophy, like you might tell a story, right? So like the train problem, right?
I was just gonna say
in
the
ethics,
trolley problem.
right?
Yeah.
The trolley problem. You think about, and it's about people, and it's about people who are in danger. The point of isn't to character develop the people. It's about to develop you with the idea. And I feel like that's kind of the way that Chris Nolan makes movies.
Exactly. I was just thinking that it doesn't take away completely, like disassociate from the character in its entirety,
Agreed.
But it's more of the relatability of the idea itself, because it's like everybody has had a dream. Or in Inception, everybody has a dream. So the idea of how to experience a dream in such a different way is like, it makes it interesting, but then it's relatable, because if you go to sleep at least once in your life, you've had a dream.
Right.
And so that idea there, or like the idea in Interstellar of, you know, the earth kind of dying or whatever, and just that grand idea of how does humanity survive,
right?
It's like that's a relatable idea, and you care about that, because it's like, man, what if I were on this planet, this dying planet, and this was the last resort?
And also the fundamental idea of like, you need science, and science is important, but science isn't enough. Like quantifying and analyzing and being all head, like it's almost like he's kind of preaching to himself in that film, because he's saying
the
like,
more I live with it, the more I'm getting there. But the love is important stuff, it only works so much. So for me, the scene that like really like got an emotional reaction and like stuck me to my seat, and I was like, okay, like I am locked in 100% experiencing this movie, is when they get back from the water planet that was close to the gargantua black hole.
Yeah.
So they're there, and Hathaway makes some mistakes, so they end up being on the planet for a couple of hours, and then they get back, and it's like 23 years have passed.
Yeah.
And it hit me the third time I watched it when they opened the gates, and that dude that they left behind, the scientist, who just kind of gave up on him. He's like, oh, like, so that worked one time out of 3. But the thing that got me every time is when Matthew McConaughey's like catching up on his kid's life.
Sure.
The 23 years of video messages, and in particular when it transitions. So in the beginning of the film, he's super close with his daughter, kind of neglects his son. Yeah. And a lot of reviewers point out that like his son does kind of get, in all stages of his life, kind of a little bit short shrift in the movie, but the movie's not about his son.
Right.
Yeah.
So his daughter was just so mad when he left, because essentially it wasn't exactly a suicide mission, but it was like a one-way ticket. Like, you're going to go and try to save us, and if you don't, that's a bummer. But either way, succeed or fail, you're probably not going to see anybody you know ever again.
Yeah.
Other than the three other people in the ship and the robot.
Right.
It's like, this is going to be your community for all time. We hope you win.
Yeah.
So his daughter didn't want him to go. He's like, but I want to do my duty. And really, part of why he did it was for his daughter, so that his daughter could have a future and could have a life.
That's the part that gets me emotionally every time, is at the end of the movie, he saved everybody. He's popped out of the black hole, like space-time, whatever thing that goes on.
Yeah, the fifth dimension.
And exactly. And they pick him up, and he's there, and his daughter is old and surrounded by family. That's his family that he's never met.
His kids and great. Yeah, he comes out, and they're like, oh, like, you're the best, like, 150-year-old we've ever seen or whatever.
And it's like the whole thing's named after her work and all this kind of stuff. And
her
like
family is around her on her
interaction. Deathbed. And she also says, like, no parent should have to watch their child die. And,
like, that got me on the third. On the third time, a lot of stuff got me.
That hits me every time. Like, just the emotion of, like, he did it and he's getting to see her again. And she's super old. She's proud of him, but like she's also kind of lived her own life.
And he wanted that for her. And he gets to see, here are her kids and grandkids and all the people who admire the work that she's done. Like, third time, all of that stuff landed.
It hits me so hard. But I think when I think about the movie, I don't think about a particular scene. I think about the whole thing. And how the entire thing kind of serves as, like, there's so many moments, and on our rewatch more recently, I was seeing it everywhere in the movie where they're pulling out this theme of the analysis isn't enough. The cold, hard science isn't enough.
Do agree.
You need care and love and warm human sentiment for reasons that you don't understand.
And for that reason, I am so, again, Chris Nolan is a bit of a genius. Like, I'm not trying to take anything away. One of the podcasts I listened to, they're arguing back and forth whether anyone other than Matthew McConaughey could have done this. And like, sure, maybe, but like, no. Like, you need to, like, his charisma kind of, when I'm being generous, really does anchor and save the movie.
I would say Gerard Butler would really kill it. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Who's that?
300?
That's the 300 guy.
Leonidas? Yeah. No, like, he's charming. He's
Lazarus.
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Sparta kicks Matt Damon.
I'm just playing. I'm just playing.
No, that but like, yeah, he's confident, he's witty, he's charming, but he's like capable.
Marv.
He's a good crier too, man. I don't imagine it's the easy,
like this, Murph.
I don't think it's the easy. I don't imagine it'd be the easiest thing to like cry in a scene in front of a bunch of cameras to turn it on. So I've never liked the bookcase scene. We can talk about that at some point.
I feel like that is everything that you don't like about the movie.
0% of the time.
Yeah.
0 out of 3, the bookcase scene in the fifth dimension.
Well, because that's the point at which you reject all of the explanatory premises of the movie. So that makes sense that you don't like that.
Oh, so I didn't even get to finish. So the point, specific point that got me every single time was when he comes back with the 23 years, and because his daughter, because she was so mad, she just stops talking to him.
Right.
So, and it's his son when he's a kid. He's little Timothée Chalamet. He's da-da-da-da-da, and then he's like, oh, it's Casey Affleck now, and then he has a kid, and then the kid dies, and all this stuff, and then he's like, hey, like, I'm a grown-up, and I know I'm not going to see you again, and I feel like I kind of need to, like, get over you so that I can live my life. And then when he logs off, you're like, okay, like, the messages are done, and then it, like, transitions, and that's the first time you see Jessica Chastain playing adult Murph, and she's like, hi, Dad, like, that part hits me every time, every single, like, I'm feeling it right now, like, because she loves him, but she's so angry. But
what
she's
she
like,
says
she's
there,
longing for him too. She's like, I'm the age you were when you left, and like, did you lie to me? Like, like, what are you doing? Because she finds out Michael Caine, like the head of NASA, was not honest with her, and she's like, well, are you in on this whole thing? Is my whole life for nothing? And all this stuff, and like, that's the best scene in the movie for me because you got the relativity, like he was on a planet for 4 hours, and then 23 years in his children's life passed. But then when it hits, it's like, I don't think it gets better than that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where like the way that time is just so like they talk about that like, oh, I didn't realize it would be like I knew in my head, like I knew all the data, but like I wasn't ready for the reality of it. And like that's so true, like in the human experience, that we can calculate, we can analyze, we can think through things, but that doesn't mean we're emotionally ready for that experience, or that we really even understand it at that point.
Yeah. And honestly, in the vein of faith culture and theology, it does make me think about the love of God.
Okay.
Because it's one where the quote that was made in the movie was, love is one thing that transcends time and space. And so I don't know, it brought my mind to that understanding of how the gospel, in that same sense, the love of God transcended time and space, as well as human merit, in order for the gospel to be a reality for us. That's what came to my mind. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm certain that Nolan didn't have anything spiritually transcendent in mind.
Sure.
But
yeah, I don't
Hit
know,
me.
like divinely transcendent or like religiously transcendent.
that's what I mean by spiritual.
Okay. But
No, like love is transcendent.
yeah.
And what's kind of interesting about that from a irreligious standpoint is that like we see like the common things where like even somebody is kind of like cold and calculating and like analytical as him, like you can't not see. And I mean, I feel like a lot of the stuff in many of his movies does have like a bit of a secular transcendence. Like he is in awe. He does live in awe. And like in that way we share the same. It's just we kind of take it to, we believe that the source of that awe is knowable personally.
Yeah. And I think it's cool that when he wants to talk about something metaphysical, something transcendent, something beyond physical dimension that we can quantify, like he wants to do it in a way that doesn't like downplay science at all. Like all of the effort that he puts in,
every single thing,
like,
and even in stuff like The Prestige,
scientific effort
which you don't like,
into a movie.
Yeah.
That's essential like message is science isn't enough. And I think there's like an integrity to that, like to say.
I think Interstellar is kind of. Well, does he do that in other ones?
I think Interstellar is particularly like
He does, because love is the key,
yeah,
not ingenuity or.
Well, there's that point in the
data.
movie where they're on the shuttle. You know, they've already gone to the Wave Planet. That didn't work. They lose the one dude, and then they're back trying to decide, okay, we can only go one other place. Where do we go? And that's where she
wants to go to the guy that
she wants
loves.
to go to the one, that she loves. And she's talking about,
and he's like, nope.
You know, we spent so long trying to figure this out with theory.
I see. Yeah.
Like maybe love is something more than we can understand. Maybe it's an artifact of a higher dimension. You know, that's the thing about it, transcending time and space.
Yeah, I wrote down, love is evidence of a higher dimension.
And basically what he does is he like traces back her desire to go to the other planet to potentially being able to be tied to emotion, and so therefore rules it out as like, nope, we're not doing that because you're making an emotional decision, and that leads them to the wrong place.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's very important. Like that's very important as far as like there's a reason why Chris Nolan made that plot decision there.
Finally, on number 8. 8 of his eighth movie. Because I think, this and then... This wasn't his last. This, then Dunkirk, and then Tenet. In Tenet, I like as well. Super no spoilers in Tenet. Because I imagine most people haven't got a chance to see it with the theaters being what they are now. One of the things that I liked about Tenet, it also definitely got some time stuff going on. But I thought the human story in Tenet and some of the interconnected relationships, I was like, he's getting better at it. Like, I felt like, because again, he can be so cold and calculating and do really interesting stuff, but just a little side.
And I'm there with you, because I appreciate a movie that doesn't, like, I appreciate one that makes me care.
Oh, for sure.
And that's why I say I relate to the emotional component of a movie, because if all this stuff is happening and it's like a sad scene and all the music's coming in, but it's like they didn't build out this context to know who these people are and why I particularly should care about these people, it's like, I mean, it's generally sad or generally impactful, like on a very, very basic level, but I don't really care that much.
I think what you said at the beginning might be key as well. Chris Nolan's movies require very active participation from the viewer. So I think what made my third watch of Interstellar the most enjoyable and rewarding was like the me that I was bringing to it. Still hated the bookcase scene. Still rolled my eyes at the beginning when they got to NASA. I was like, this couldn't happen. But once I kind of got past that, like, I love it when a movie makes me work and doesn't spoon feed me everything.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to emotionally, I know you need to emotionally fill in some of the gaps, but I do still feel like you get a 10 out of 10 on the technical aspect of it. But like on the emotional, like the genuine, like human aspect of it, I only feel like it was like maybe a 7 out of 10. Like it wasn't filled out. I had to fill it in and be like, oh, I have kids. I know what this would be like. I had to bring so much to it that the movie didn't give me, and I don't know exactly what I would want it to give me more.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know exactly what would have made it a richer experience for me, but I still feel like that could have been improved upon.
No, I get what you're saying. And like, you know, when they go on the mission, they've got the 4 scientists. 2 of them die along the way.
And the robot, which is great,
and
by the way.
I honestly, though, I don't know. Like, I'm thinking through, like, the one guy, he gets washed away on the water planet.
Yep. The Hunger Games guy.
Yeah. And the other guy gets blown up by evil Matt Damon.
Yeah. The black guy who had it so hard.
Yeah.
He hung out for 23 years by himself.
Right.
So he was going to do the cryo sleep some, study the science of the black hole some, because they were so close, and he could get more info. But like, he was by himself for 23 years. He's like, well, I might as well die here and not be in the cryo sleep forever. So he went through all that, and then he's like, well, the data's good for Anne Hathaway. And Matthew McConaughey's like, no love, no thought, no emotion. Then they go to the other place, and then he blows up. He does
typical.
That's rough, man. The future didn't get better. You heard it on Interstellar first,
man. I haven't talked about what's relatable to me.
Oh no. But like, yeah, the thing is that's sad about it too, though, with those deaths is like, I feel what you're saying about character development. Like, I didn't feel deeply at those moments.
I felt nothing about Wes Bentley getting washed away in the water other than, oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, like, man.
The third time
I
him
think
blowing
it
up,
raised
I
the
did
stakes.
It did. No, for sure. It raised the tension.
Yeah, that's what it was for, rather than like you really, really cared about this character.
But like the third time when he blew up, I was like, dang, this dude has had it rough.
I hadn't even thought about that. That's so true.
Because that was right after he was marooned for 23 years by himself. Because like he's got like the gray beard, and he's kind of talking slower because he's not socializing with any. The robot they even took down with him, like he was by himself.
Yeah, nothing.
Super solo.
Man, no, that's.
But I didn't feel a ton. I was just like, dang, like. So you didn't feel anything with the 2 deaths?
Yeah, so I'm resonating with your point about, but for me, it's like the analogy I made before. It's always been with the Nolan movies, like especially Inception, especially Interstellar together, those two, like the bigger point that he's making, taking a step back and seeing the whole movie, like that connects with me. Because
I can't wait for you to see Tenet.
And I think there's ways that I've watched movies that way. Like, for example, Fight Club. Like, if it was in all of the details, like even that movie, like if my focus was so much on that, there would be things that would repulse me. But like the broader idea of, like in that movie, that
I see
materialism is not the answer to the meaning of life. Like, I connect with that. And so like it's these kind of
some of the brutality and the vulgarity is like
That's not what
I don't love that. I'm not like, ooh, I like that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
But
and I feel like a lot of people watch a movie like Fight Club and like that's literally all they get out of it. And
that's fine.
Maybe somebody watches Interstellar and all they get out of it is cool spaceships. Like
that's what I did the first time, because I remember talking to my wife. I was like, she's like, what did you think? And I was like, I loved watching it. Kind of didn't really like it at all. As a movie.
But for me, like that's why I love, because I'm always looking for, okay, like what is he trying to say? Like what's that message? And I don't know, I just really resonate with that. I felt like it was a compelling way to talk about that stuff. And I mean, there's so much more we haven't got a chance to talk about yet, like the changing of history books, the science versus like farmer kind of stuff that goes on. Like
I
there's
did
so
want,
much.
because we talked about Michael Caine. I believe he was the one.
I think Vincent was going to say something about what resonated. You were going to say something that resonated with you?
Now that you're bringing that up, Phil, I really do appreciate that emotional value that of a character development. And now that you say that, it's like,
it's pretty much about Matthew McConaughey and his daughter.
Yes.
And everyone else was kind of window dressing.
Correct.
But I can often appreciate a movie that helps me to think about something differently.
For sure.
And this,
that's valuable.
In the same way that Inception makes me think differently about time and dreams and how ideas work.
Yes.
This makes me think differently about time and space travel and the significance of something that is not data driven, like you were saying, Trevor, about love and how that transcends space and time. And so I resonate with anything or most things, especially this movie, that can allow me to think about something that I commonly think about, but think about it differently and pursue it in a way where it's like, if I didn't see this Chris Nolan movie, probably wouldn't have thought about time that way.
Well, in a lot of ways it's successful. But it's, I don't know.
And I think the way that he uses science and like the setting really, like I said before, really makes it feel near. Like it could be like you feel like you could end up living that reality.
Yeah, no, like I was saying, I think it's near future, but it's not like he didn't say like, this is 2300 or 20.
His dad gives some talking points that makes it sound like, the older
it could
guy
be like 2 generations away when they're at the baseball game, and then when they're sitting on the porch, they were just kind of things, and I don't remember all the things he said. I think he said something like history books or something.
Well, he talked about how they used to have actual hot dogs at the ball games.
Okay.
Because all they had was popcorn. He was like, popcorn at a ball game? This is silly. But all they had was corn products.
I don't know if I even put 2 and 2 together on that one.
You didn't see all the corn-related like food items?
Well, I mean, I knew they had corn. I saw that they had corn, but I didn't.
Yeah, the whole point is like that's all they have. That's all they have because there's a global food shortage. Yeah. But anyway, like he was probably somebody like our age or a little bit younger, kind of, and then like his son is like Matthew McConaughey's, however you say his name, character.
So Matthew McConaughey is
so then you're talking about like late, like maybe getting close to 2100, but not quite. So
and it's so grounded, like it does all feel real.
Yeah,
like NASA, like my great grandpa said something about NASA, but like.
Oh yeah, we faked the moon landings. Like,
that's good writing.
Yeah, it condenses a lot because their society. I don't know. It's just an interesting way humans kind of approach problems. Is that like a lot of times instead of actually dealing with the problem, we just mitigate symptoms.
Yep.
Yeah,
and like that's kind of what their society was kind of trying to do. It was like, okay, well, we don't need scientists. We need farmers, and it's like, well, what are you going to farm? If all of your food is dying of disease, like
if all the land is unable to be tended, then what?
Then everyone dies, I guess, like the end. And that was really the course that they had. Like that was it. And so it's just interesting that he was always pushing for more. That was just another way that they set up his character too, to like be pushing for data, pushing for science. And then his daughter is kind of the one who's pushing for even more than that, and also the Anne Hathaway character as well, whatever her name is. Dr. So-and-so. See, this is your point about we don't care about these characters. We don't know
Cooper.
any of their names.
I remember
Dr.
Cooper and Murph. Cooper was Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
And she was Murph Cooper.
Yeah.
Because at first, that was it was brief, but it was a nice little misdirect at the end when he comes out of the fifth dimension and wakes up. And he's like, oh, we're in the Cooper wing. He's like, no, this is Murph Cooper.
Yeah.
And then he's kind of like deflated for a second, but then like he gets a little bit of pride that like his daughter had a successful life.
What's going on with this poem? Do not go gentle into that good night.
That was another thing. Chris Nolan's such a good writer. That was like the least subtle thing in any of his films ever. They say it like 4 or 5 times in the movie. It's like, guy, like we get it. Like life is precious and it sucks to die. Like over and over and over. I felt like...
You feel like that was all that was going on there?
A little on the nose. I'm sure there was a little bit more, but like it was... I felt like it was kind of...
I don't know, man.
On the nose. What are your thoughts?
I just think it's interesting how they use it. So it's the dying words of the scientist. And it's like, basically he's telling her, well, y'all are going to die. It was always only plan A. There was no plan B to save all the people on Earth. It was always about just getting the germination stuff out there and restarting. But then he says, do not go gentle into that good night.
I mean, I think, again, it's about like the preciousness of life. My favorite line in the film, I think, was from Michael Caine. Like, you were talking about death and time, and he says, I'm not afraid of death. I'm afraid of time. I thought that was the one that kind of, from the screenwriter point of view, where it's like, here's like a thesis type thing, where it's dying is something we all do. What are you going to do with the time you have kind of thing? Which is also... more on the emotional side and not as much on the sterilely analytical. Like, it's not purely clinical. Because you could look at data and be like, oh, like, well, I did all these things. But, like, that type of sentiment elicits more than, like, just cold calculations. I feel like. Maybe you just wanted time to do more science. I don't know. So, can we talk about the black hole scene? That was phenomenal.
Oh, I mean, absolutely.
You're probably more like on the technical side of it.
How so? How does it stress you out?
Or the wormhole, I'll say.
When
wormhole.
he
The
jumped
spherical deal.
Oh, you're talking about wormhole. You're
talking about the fifth dimension.
He's talking about actual black hole.
Oh, the black hole's out there. I'm talking the spherical.
You're talking about the wormhole.
That was the coolest
He's talking about the
sequence.
Wormhole.
Of
the wormhole.
Sorry,
where they travel to the other galaxy.
I knew what you meant, but yeah, what you said was
no.
wrong.
That stressed me out too, for sure.
Because we were like,
and then that got me to
oh
like,
my goodness,
yeah, very 2001. Sorry. But then it led into the worst sequence of the whole movie.
Man,
but visually interesting. But I remember the first time I'm like, what is this? And then I realized what it was. I was like, are you freaking kidding me?
I thought it was amazing how well, like the third time I watched the black hole scene, like how well they actually had talked about all of the different like physics kind of problems that you would have in something like that. And like they set it up in a way that like just, it was amazing how committed they were to what we understand about our reality.
Well, sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
But yeah, the wormhole scene.
Well, no, on the black hole scene too. I watched plenty of supplemental
like scientific papers
and stuff with the scientist. I'm dropping his name right now, but like the idea, and this kind of does also go to the love thing. Could have been executed better, but it's nice to see that was a big part of it. The idea that if you or I would have jumped in there, like whatever our like strongest desire or urge is what we would be experiencing, not. That wasn't just a one-way ticket to the bookshelf in Merce room. Like Matthew McConaughey, his being and his secular soul, whatever, like that is what created the reality which helped him get back and blah, 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 blah.
That's dope. I didn't even pick that up, but that's amazing.
Yeah, it's not like the beings are like, Murph's bedroom is the key.
Yeah.
No, like, so that was him. So that's kind of interesting too. I did like that.
Yeah, all of that. Yeah, I don't know, the wormhole thing.
But the wormhole is
cool.
the dopest.
I mean, it's like a really dope
movie.
visual.
Yeah,
a really dope.
Really, really incredible. And also the scene where, when evil Matt Damon gets he steals.
I love that. That's all we're gonna call him this entire episode.
I don't remember his name.
Evil Matt Damon.
That's what he was.
Just evil Matt Damon.
He stole the rover, and he went first, and they were chasing him, and he kept trying to dock.
Should we call him Dr. Damon?
No. Nope.
That kind of makes him sound like, no?
Man, Dr. Man, which was also very unsubtle.
Don't give him his real name.
I just remembered it.
Oh.
Because they kept saying, they had a couple of little,
why is that unsubtle?
I feel like potentially cutesy things like, oh, like man is our last hope kind of thing. Dr. Man, mankind, like we're going to take care of it ourselves, like humanistic type deal. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple of phrasings with Dr. Man's name where I'm like, it was slightly eye-rolly, but not too bad. Kind of slightly indulgent.
So
I
wait,
thought.
so is McConaughey's character important because of Cooper like makes
Are you
barrels?
make a dumb joke? Yeah. I didn't even know where it was going. I was like, get this out of here. Move along.
You stopped on my joke.
But also, like, yeah, like man was the best of us, but then also man is fallen, man is selfish, blah blah blah.
Dude, that's not undeep.
No. I didn't say it was
Romans.
undeep. I was a little maybe indulgent. I don't know. Because this is also Interstellar. This
we're on a
isn't
freaking
like,
ice planet. Like, what do you want?
Oh, that's fine. It's fine. It is okay. Yeah, it has gone up my list. I think.
Okay.
I don't know where.
How many places?
I don't know.
What's the minimum number of places it's gone up? Well, I mean,
no
at least
more than
one.
two.
Okay.
No more than two.
Okay.
So
one or two then.
Yeah, two tops.
Okay.
Because I got Following and Insomnia that are both great, but they're like little. And that's the hard thing about. And I know some people hate rankings, and rankings are just fun, and they're not like set in stone. But like with Nolan, you have the big crazy spectacle versus kind of like the small, tight little personal movie, and they're just two different things.
Yeah.
Like
they are. It's very much not a Malick film.
Well, no, but I'm saying like Memento is like a couple hours in one guy's life.
Yeah.
And then Inception is this crazy like idea thing. So like when I'm like, which is my favorite?
Sure.
Memento or Inception? Like they're just so different.
They are different.
So like kind of so yeah, Following and Insomnia were above it. Interstellar's good. But also I like tight little thrillers. Like I'm liking Interstellar more, but would I rather pop on a 3-hour movie that's mostly about ideas with some good emotion, or would I rather watch a tight little thriller that's like hour and 40? Or I think Following is actually like 70 something minutes, which is great. So I don't know.
So make your movie shorter, directors, and get higher on Philip's list.
Yeah, unless you're a couple of key guys, cut it out.
Man, you must not. Do you like Marvel movies?
No, I do. But some of them, they could definitely trim it up a bit.
Avengers 2 was...
Endgame is great. Yeah, Endgame is the culmination of like 22 movies. Yeah. That's a wholly singular thing.
That's 301, though.
I don't watch a Marvel movie to like think real hard. Like
that's true.
For most of them.
No, Endgame tied up loose ends from 22 movies. I don't mind that. And it never seems long.
No.
I give you that. It never did.
Keeps you moving. For sure.
Anyway,
so watch Interstellar.
Final thoughts?
Watch it. I like it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, why do we recommend people to see this movie?
Do I recommend this movie? Guess I.
Whoa.
No, I'd.
Yeah, I recommend it. I recommend it just
the
I think
biggest,
the visuals,
loudest theater you can.
You do want a bigger screen for it, but yeah, just for some of the ways that Nolan makes you think. I think one, some of just the amazing realities of our universe are kind of on display, and the way time and gravity work together. I think it could definitely make people think about that. But even as much as science is on display in a cool way, for it to like go further and say there's still things that are more important and more transcendent that are out there is a refreshing thing to take in our very materialistic, in a philosophical sense, world. So I appreciate that.
I don't know if we want to do this every time. You're going to do like a little rating section. Like, what would you give it out of 10? At this time. These aren't binding.
Oh, man. I'm just going to throw a number out there because I was not prepared for this, but I would give it I'd give it a 8.
Okay.
I would give it, After your initial point of character development, I'm going to bump it down to an 8.5.
Bump it up?
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm going to bump it down.
Because you had it at a 9?
Yeah, I had it at a 9.
All right.
close to 9.5, maybe like 9.2.
No, there's no wrong answer. This is just us. Do I like
9.2? This guy's on a 100-point scale. He's giving it a
so
9.
you got 8.5. I'll
just
say
saying.
like 7 feels too low. No way I'm doing it. Like 7.75 is high. I'd say 7 point.
You on a 100-point scale too?
7.5.
Guys cheating over here.
7.5.
7.5. That's fair.
All right. All right. It's good. All right. So check out. We're going to have a link in the show description. And I mean, as you do,
Tell us what you thought.
I'm sure a
Continue the
ton of you guys
convo.
have already watched this movie, so you already have your thoughts and interactions. Hit us up with those on our Twitter feed, on our...
Yeah, hit us up on Twitter and Instagram or Facebook. We're at facebook.com.
Yeah, importantly, if you're catching us on YouTube, we do have the comments turned off there, but we've got some links in the description.
Yeah. Facebook, Twitter,
Punch
Instagram.
one of those and come see it.
The
talk with
Substance
us.
Pod at Twitter and Instagram, or you can send us an email at thesubstancepod@gmail.com, or if you want to communicate to us directly, there's the phone number.
Yeah, if the movie just really emotionally connected with you and you
Call us right after you
Yeah.
watch that 23-year sequence,
Yeah.
just in tears and telling us how affecting it was.
the phone number for that is 913-703-3883. And just keep your sobs to about a minute when you do that. And you could be on the show if it's good stuff.
Yeah, let us know what you thought. Like I'm interested to see like what I'll think about this movie in a year. I think it's one that will probably grow on me. It's never gonna get actually better than it is. The stupid plot deal is the stupid plot deal, and some of the lacking
Stupid to you.
character yeah, if you're a physicist, hit me up. Talk to me. Tell me about it. Tell me why I'm wrong. And some of the lacking character, like it's not going to be more, but I think it will grow on me and I will like it more. Because I really like 2001, and that's like almost completely sterile. This has it in there. I'm sure the more I live with it, like I guess in a way I'm glad we did this. And that, and I even watched it again because I fell asleep during the last half when we watched it together. So I watched it on a third time on my own just to do it good for
Nolan requires engagement while he's just like,
I don't know. It's a 3-hour movie and I had a long day.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of talking.
Us watching the movie. Anyway, I know Vince is going to hit us up with some support info, but just to let the listeners know also, one way that they can support the show, we're going to have, if you don't have Interstellar and you want to buy it, check it out. If you use the link in our show description, that's actually one way that you could support the show.
Yeah, we get a little kickback from that.
Yeah, so if that's something you're planning on doing, you want to support the show, that's one way you can do it. Vince, what are some other ways?
A couple other ways you can support the show if you enjoy the content. One is by subscribing and sharing. Subscribe to your favorite podcast platform and share that everywhere with everyone.
It should be on all of them now, I believe.
Yeah,
all the primary
We're
ones.
on about 10, including YouTube,
and newly on Amazon.
Yeah,
so if you
newly
know
on Amazon.
know
Some
anybody that's
clean
getting into the
interface.
Amazon, man,
It's pretty nice.
that new Amazon Music and Podcast app is slick.
It's pretty
I like
nice.
it.
Yeah. And another way you can support us, if you feel inclined, you could bless us on Cash App. That would be at $The Substance Pod. And for anything you guys decide to contribute, we want to say thank you.
Indeed. Thanks,
Appreciate
guys. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we will catch you next week on The Substance. I'm so freaking loud. Why am I so loud, guys?
No, it's not because you're Italian.
That's true. I'm not Italian. My ethnicity is completely white.
I don't usually pick white.
Completely. You don't usually pick white
usually
as
do
your
other.
ethnicity? Really?
Yeah. I occasionally will do white.
Paul, you know who Paul Mooney is?
No.
He wrote.
The name rings a bell.
He wrote a lot of the material for Richard Pryor.
Oh, really?
And and he was like, anytime someone asks me what my race is, he says, I write in the truth. Stolen African.
Stolen African. That's good.
When you said that, it reminded me.
You're like,
That's funny.
Stolen African. Rough.
It's good B-roll.
Very historic.